The story of Ruth is one of the most touching and inspiring narratives in the Bible, highlighting the importance of loyalty, love, and faith. This story takes place during the period of the Judges, a time of great instability in Israel, marked by cycles of disobedience, oppression, and liberation. Ruth, a Moabite woman, emerges as a notable example of virtue and devotion amid these difficulties. Her journey begins in Moab, where she marries one of Naomi's sons, an Israelite who had moved there due to a famine in his homeland, Bethlehem of Judah. Unfortunately, after the deaths of her father-in-law, husband, and brother-in-law, Ruth faces a crucial choice: to remain in Moab with her family of origin or to accompany her mother-in-law, Naomi, back to Bethlehem. Ruth's decision to follow Naomi and adopt the God of Israel as her own is a powerful testimony to her dedication and courage. Throughout this narrative, we see how God rewards Ruth's faithfulness and includes her in the lineage of King David and, eventually, Jesus Christ. This story is a brilliant example of how faith and devotion can transform lives and change the course of history, showing that one person's actions can have a lasting and significant impact. After the deaths of her husband and sons, Naomi decides to return to Bethlehem, as she heard that the Lord had provided food for his people. She encourages her daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth, to stay in Moab and rebuild their lives there. Orpah, reluctantly, decides to stay, but Ruth refuses to leave Naomi. She makes a memorable declaration of loyalty: "Ye don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go I will go, and where you stay I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God." So, Ruth and Naomi travel together to Bethlehem, where their arrival causes great commotion among the inhabitants. Naomi, bitter from her loss, asks to be called Mara, which means bitter, instead of Naomi, which means pleasant. Ruth begins to work in the barley fields to support herself and her mother-in-law, showing great courage and determination. This journey back to Bethlehem is not only physical, but also spiritual, as Ruth fully embraces the faith and traditions of Israel, showing that true devotion transcends cultural and ethnic boundaries. While Ruth gleans in the barley fields, she finds herself working in the field of Boaz, a wealthy relative of Naomi. Boaz, impressed by Ruth's dedication to Naomi, offers her protection and allows her to continue gleaning in his fields. He instructs his workers to leave extra sheaves for Ruth to gather, ensuring that she and Naomi have enough to eat. Ruth reports to Naomi about Boaz's kindness, and Naomi recognizes Boaz as a kinsman redeemer, according to the Levirate law. Naomi then advises Ruth on how to approach Boaz to seek his protection and the possibility of marriage, following the customs of the time. This encounter with Boaz is a significant turning point in Ruth's life, as it not only guarantees her immediate survival, but also opens the door to a more secure and prosperous future. Boaz's kindness and Ruth's obedience to Naomi's instructions are examples of how grace and wisdom can manifest in daily interactions. Ruth follows Naomi's instructions and goes to the threshing floor, where Boaz is sleeping. She lies at his feet, a gesture of humility and a request for redemption. Boaz wakes up and, upon noticing Ruth, is moved by her courage and integrity. He promises to do everything necessary to redeem her, but mentions that there is a nearer kinsman who has the first right of redemption. The next morning, Boaz goes to the city gate to deal with the matter with the nearest kinsman in the presence of the elders. The nearest kinsman, upon learning that redemption would include marrying Ruth, declines, leaving Boaz free to redeem Ruth. This process of redemption is an example of the justice and mercy that are central to the law of Israel, and shows how God works through the traditions and laws of his people to bring blessings and provision. Boaz demonstrates not only his responsibility, but also his deep respect and affection for Ruth, highlighting the importance of just and compassionate actions. Boaz fulfills his promises and redeems Ruth, marrying her. This act of redemption not only ensures the safety and provision for Ruth and Naomi, but also includes Ruth in the lineage of Jesus Christ. The marriage of Boaz and Ruth is celebrated with great joy, and Ruth soon gives birth to a son, Obed. The women of the city bless Naomi, saying that Ruth, who loves her, is better for her than 7 sons. Obed grows up to become the grandfather of King David, establishing the direct connection between Ruth and the royal lineage of Israel. This part of the story highlights divine providence and how God uses ordinary people to accomplish His extraordinary plans. The union of Boaz and Ruth is a powerful symbol of how God can transform lives through acts of kindness and faithfulness. The joy and celebration surrounding Obed's birth are testimonies to the positive impact that faith and obedience can have, not only on individual lives, but also on the broader community. Ruth's transformation from a foreign widow to a revered mother in the lineage of David exemplifies the grace and redemption available to all who trust in God. Boaz and Ruth not only find love and companionship in each other, but also become part of something much greater than they could have imagined. Their story is a reminder that God has a plan for each of us and that our faithfulness and obedience can have a lasting impact. Ruth's loyalty to Naomi, her courage in a new country, and Boaz's kindness are rewarded in ways that affect future generations. The narrative of Ruth is a testament to God's love and how He honors those who trust in Him. The lineage from Ruth to King David and Jesus Christ highlights the importance of the choices we make and how God can use our lives in ways we do not always understand. Ruth and Boaz's journey is a celebration of God's faithfulness and an inspiration to all who face challenges in life. It is a proof that, even in the most difficult situations, trust in God can bring abundant fruit and lasting blessings. The story of Ruth ends on a note of hope and redemption. Ruth, the Moabite, finds a home and a family in Israel, and her faithfulness is rewarded with a place in the lineage of King David and Jesus Christ. Naomi, who had lost everything, is restored through Ruth's dedication and Boaz's kindness. The birth of Obed brings joy and renewal to Naomi's life, turning her bitterness into blessing. This conclusion shows how God can transform difficult situations into testimonies of His faithfulness and love. Ruth's life continues to inspire many people, demonstrating that faith and loyalty can overcome difficulties. Her story is proof that God is always working in our lives, even when we cannot see His plan. Ruth and Naomi's journey from Moab to Bethlehem, and Ruth's subsequent marriage to Boaz, are powerful examples of redemption and renewal. The story concludes with the genealogy linking Ruth to King David, showing that God can use anyone, regardless of their origin, to fulfill His purposes. This narrative is a reminder that, in the midst of trials, God's providence is always present, guiding and blessing those who are faithful to Him. Ruth's life continues to inspire many people, demonstrating that faith and loyalty can overcome difficulties. Her story is proof that God is always working in our lives, even when we cannot see His plan. Ruth and Naomi's journey from Moab to Bethlehem, and Ruth's subsequent marriage to Boaz, are powerful examples of redemption and renewal. The story concludes with a genealogy linking Ruth to King David, showing that God can use anyone, regardless of their origin, to fulfill His purposes. This narrative is a reminder that, in the midst of trials, God's providence is always present, guiding and blessing those who are faithful to Him. Ruth's faithfulness and the redemption offered by Boaz are central themes that resonate deeply with all who seek to understand the depth of God's love and His ability to transform lives. The story of Ruth is an example of how faithfulness, courage, and faith can change lives. Ruth, a foreigner, was embraced by God and became an ancestor of King David and Jesus Christ. Her story teaches us about the importance of following God with all our heart and trusting in His provision, even in times of uncertainty. Ruth and Naomi show us that with God, we are never alone, and that He has a plan for each of us. This story of redemption and renewal continues to resonate through the ages, inspiring faith and confidence in God's love and providence. The narrative of Ruth is a powerful testimony to God's grace and how He honors those who are loyal to Him. Ruth's life, her journey from Moab to Bethlehem, and her place in the lineage of David and Jesus, are lasting reminders of the importance of faith and obedience. This story inspires not only through Ruth's devotion, but also through God's constant provision in all circumstances. Thank you for watching this video about the inspiring story of Ruth. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible Bible stories. Leave your comment on what touched you most in Ruth's story. We appreciate your support and hope to see you in the next videos. May God bless you and your family, and see you next time. Ruth's story reminds us that even in the hardest moments, faith in God can guide us to new hopes and blessings. Stay tuned to our channel for more videos that explore the powerful and transformative stories of the Bible. And